Hey guys, it's Mason, and this is Wrestling in the Dark, the only professional wrestling podcast brought to you by a blind fan. And today, I'm going to be talking about WWE's Money in the Bank 2019 pay-per-view, which happened last night, featuring two stacked Money in the Bank ladder matches. Seth Rollins defending his Universal Championship against AJ Styles, Kevin Owens going up against Kofi Kingston for the WWE Championship, and Becky Lynch defends against Lacey Evans for the Raw Women's Championship and Charlotte Flair for the SmackDown Women's Championship in the same night. It's a stacked card. What happened? How good was it? If you want to find out, stick with me as I take a look through this year's Money in the Bank pay-per-view and see how it all panned out. So the women's Money in the Bank ladder match kicked off the night, and this was one of the things that I was looking forward to most. I actually was incredibly excited about how stacked I thought the lineup was for this match, and I have to say it was probably one of the best matches of the night. Not sure that it would be like the second, but maybe like the third or fourth best match of the night. It was a very, very strong match that showed off the women in a good capacity, I think. As you would expect, ladder matches are not easy for me to follow, and there was multiple occasions in this where the commentary definitely for sure let me down. But let's take a look at the match. It was all Nikki Cross to start with. She was running wild on everyone. She was attacking people out in the ringside area, tying them up in the ring aprons, running around with the ladder, just being a general crazy self. And I thought that was a nice way to sort of introduce her. She hasn't been used that much on the main roster, so it's a nice little introduction to how crazy she can be, and I'm glad that she also had the sanity theme still. It still works for her, and I'm glad that they've allowed her to keep that. Carmella went out of the match early with a tweaked knee, and I wasn't sure what was going on at first, but it was fairly interesting. I wasn't sure, obviously, when these sorts of things happen until, later on in the match when you get a confirmation. This easily could have actually been an injury, but it wasn't, because she come back out later in the match. There was so many cool things in this match that I couldn't really tell you everything. Naomi managed to hit a split-legged moonsault on Bayley. She was probably one of the victims of poor commentary in this match, because there was one point where it was just literally, it was, oh, okay, Naomi, yeah, Naomi. Oh, an unorthodox approach there by Naomi. And I was just like, okay, what? And there was a part where Nikki Cross put Ember Moon in a sleeper hold. And then I presume what happened was Ember Moon probably got up and did some sort of back bump with Nikki onto the ladder or something like that. There was a huge ladder noise, and the commentators just went, "It's all legal in Money in the Bank." And I was like, yeah, okay, but still, please tell me what was going on. There was a couple of really nice spots in this match for me. The three that really stick out. Now, obviously, on my predictions, I said, I don't want to see Ember Moon do an eclipse off the ladder. She presumably listened to the podcast and decided, well, screw you, Mason, I'm going to do that, but more. And she did an eclipse off the top of the ladder to the outside onto Natalya, and that was just an incredible spot. The whole crowd went absolutely mental for it, and I thought it was really, really cool. It really sets Ember apart as being the one that can truly be a proper high flyer out of all of them and pull off the big spectacular spots. I guess she's the Ricochet of this match. Dana Brooke actually got some time to shine in this match. There was multiple times when she was running wild and she managed to clear the ring and get people down, and there was one point when she was in the ring on her own, and they did a nice spot where it was as if Brooke couldn't believe that she was actually in the ring on her own, that she'd managed to give herself this much of an advantage, and Renee was just screaming at her, just make a move, because she was just frozen and in a state of shock, and I really, really like that. I feel like they've been doing a good job recently of trying to get people behind Dana Brooke. It's like they've realised that no one really cares, which is a shame. But they've really been trying to get people behind her and book her as a bit of a face, I think. She eventually does climb the ladder, and she ends up squabbling with all the other women. I think Mandy was the one to climb up and try and stop her. She ended up swinging from the case, which I thought was really cool. Like, I honestly, for a second, I was like, Dana Brooke might actually win this. And she's got her hands on the briefcase, and then Mandy comes. Dana ends up swinging, suspended from the case. Mandy brings her back onto the ladder, and then sort of all hell breaks loose, and I'm not sure quite what happened after there. I think there was just a bold move by Natalya, I think the commentators called it. All the women were up on the ladders, then they were down off the ladders. So whatever Natalya did was effective. Carmella came back towards the end of the match as Mandy was preparing to climb the ladder. Carmella wiped her out. They were playing up that she was coming back on one leg. Really like that. Again, nice face spot for Carmella coming back, and no, I'm not sitting the match out. I don't care if I've got an injured leg, which is, you know, bad for your health. Stop that, Carmella. But I won't let this take me out of the match. She comes back and she takes out Mandy, and then the next thing, Sonya Deville's there, and I was like, oh, she gonna turn on Mandy? But no, she actually did the opposite. She took out Carmella, and then she starts climbing the ladder towards the briefcase with Mandy Rose knocked out over her shoulders. And all I could think was, don't worry, Mr. Frodo. If I can't carry your burden, I'll carry you. I just thought it was brilliant. I couldn't not think of Lord of the Rings as she was just carrying her up there to get the briefcase. And I just thought it was a really nice spot, in all seriousness. It's a good way of demonstrating that Sonya is a good friend, that she actually feels that Mandy is a friend. I think that we're going to see more of a division between Mandy and Sonya in the coming weeks or months, because it feels like they're really turning Sonya face and they're going to keep Mandy heel. So they'll probably break up, and that is a shame, because like I said, the fact that she stepped aside and let Mandy into this match, and then she tried to literally carry her up the ladder to win, was, in the end, Bayley ended up stopping her, and she climbed the ladder and won herself. So Bayley was the winner, and I actually managed to get that prediction right. Thank God that I actually did just go with Bayley. Like I said, this was a really decent match that showed off. I think most of the women had at least one cool little moment in the match, and there was some pretty cool, just general moments. I gave it a strong 4 out of 6. I was very happy to see Bayley walking out, and the only problem with it is that the commentators just advertised what was going to happen later in the night. I mean, spoiler alert, Bayley cashed in later on, but the commentators could not have advertised more that she was going to do that, because Percy Watson, Byron Saxton was shouting about, oh, now you've got to figure out at what point you're going to cash it in, and Tom Phillips was like, oh, there's a long time till that, Percy. No, there's like a year that she's got to think about that. It's not going to be a while until she cashes that in, and it's like, well, she's cashing it in tonight then, isn't she, lads? So that was like the one real complaint that I had about it. It was seriously advertising what was going to happen later on in the night, and there really was a few cases in this of really poor commentary. Like I said, that little bit with Naomi where it was like, oh yeah, Naomi, yeah, unorthodox approach by Naomi, big kick, or whatever, and I was just like, just tell me what's going on. And it wasn't the only thing throughout the night that suffered from that, and I don't think it was the thing that was either. But like I said, all the women got a time to shine. Bayley walked out a strong winner. She looked really good coming out of this, and I was actually hyped to see her with the briefcase. I gave this a strong 4 out of 6 match, and a decent way to open up the pay-per-view. Next up, it's the United States Championship match between Samoa Joe and Rey Mysterio with his son Dominic at ringside. Waste of time. This match was such a waste of time. They did it again. And I remember how in my predictions video I said this match could go either way. It could be a low 4 if they don't want to give them much time and they want to do the same sort of thing that they did at WrestleMania. It could be a strong 5 out of 6 match if they actually want to give them a little bit of time. And guess what? They didn't want to give them any time, or they didn't want to give them a real match, and it was a waste once again. Rey Mysterio, as they played up in this match, has never won the United States Championship before. So Samoa Joe comes out of the gate hot, and he's really taking it to Rey with some big kicks, and they're really playing up how powerful Samoa Joe's kicks are. He's then hitting him with some big chops. Then he goes for a powerbomb. Rey Mysterio counters the powerbomb into a pinfall attempt and picks up the win for the United States Championship. Except, then they play it up. Corey immediately jumps on the fact that Samoa Joe's shoulder was clearly not down and the ref just didn't notice it. Now, I am sick to death of these sort of finishes, because we had this with Becky Lynch and Ronda Rousey at WrestleMania, and this was just, it was so disappointing. Samoa Joe could be a really good champ. They could be doing so much with him at the minute. They could be doing so much with him and Rey Mysterio. This could be a good feud. I've said to so many people, this could be Spider-Man versus Kingpin. It could be comic book levels of telling a story. And it was just so annoying and stupid, because you give Rey Mysterio the United States Championship for the first time ever for a win that is cheap. It doesn't matter. It doesn't make him look good. And then you try and build empathy for him afterwards by having Samoa Joe lay him out in front of his son. And I'm just like, yeah, Joe, you get him. You got robbed. And that's not what they want me to do. They want me to be like, oh no, how can that nasty Samoa Joe beat up Rey Mysterio in front of his son? Oh, what a terrible human being. No, he's just stolen the championship off him. Yeah, okay, wasn't his fault. It was the ref. But, oh, Jesus Christ. I just really thought that this could be a decent match, and I think that Samoa Joe needs something like the United States Championship, unless they're going to fire him up into the main event, which, spoiler alert, later on I'll get into reasons why. They will not be firing him up into the main event, so he's going nowhere now. And Rey Mysterio, okay, yeah, he'll have the United States Championship for a bit, and he'll probably carry on facing Samoa Joe, but he doesn't look good now. Like, I'm not bothered about seeing him try and defend that United States Championship, because he won it in a matter that just, it cheapens everything. And I just feel like, yeah, okay, you could have done this the way that you did it for the most part, but what if Joe had been attacking Rey on the outside and he just doesn't care about the rules or any of that? He keeps rolling back in, breaking the count. He's throwing Rey into the barricade and into the steps, etc., etc. He's taunting Dominic and taunting him, and then Dominic gets in and tries to attack Joe, and Joe lays out Dominic, and then Rey Mysterio's just so fired up by this that he finally comes back and wins the championship in vengeance of him attacking his son, or just any of those sort of things, really. Anything along those lines where Rey wins it for his son for some reason, that would be a good story still. But just this way did not work for me at all. I thought it was a complete waste of time, and I thought it made both men look really, really bad. I gave this a 2 out of 6. The Miz versus Shane McMahon in steel cage action next. This one I was slightly more okay with. I still don't think it was the best match in the world. I still don't think that it was maybe as good as it could have been, mainly because I don't feel like The Miz really lived up to the vengeful face that they were trying to position him as in this match. There was a lot of Game of Thrones references in this match, with the finale going on at the same time. They were talking about, this is House Mizanin versus House McMahon, all of that sort of thing, trying to just, I don't know, trying to cash in on the pop culture reference, I guess, and it wasn't really that impressive. But the in-ring stuff, let's get to that. Shane tried to escape straight away, almost immediately won, but The Miz managed to bring him back in. Miz was hitting the it kicks for a little while, with the crowd chanting yes, big time. Then there was a little section where the commentary were just basically talking amongst themselves, arguing about whether Shane was the best in the world or not. I imagine that this must have been a little bit of a down period in the match anyway, which is why they weren't talking about it, because there was some CM Punk chants, and there was also a light AEW chant, so the crowd was clearly not paying attention by this point. Shane went for a coast to coast, and The Miz intercepted him. I don't know what intercepted means, that's just what the commentary said. He intercepted him on the coast to coast, and he locked in the figure four. This was then some submission drama, which was actually one of the better parts of the match, as Shane called for the door to be opened, and the ref opened the door. Shane was crawling towards it, still in the figure four, dragging Miz with him, dangling his body out of the door. They were really playing it like, oh, is he going to win? Both feet have to touch, his feet aren't there, and Miz was trying to keep the hold locked on. Shane sneakily grabbed a chair from under the ring, though, as he was dangling out, and as the Miz dragged him back in, he brought the chair in with him. There's then a little exchange, and they had a double down. Both of them were down for a little bit. Then they both started coming around, and they both spotted the chair. There was a little race to the chair, and Miz got there first. It was absolutely tenderising Shane with the chair for a little bit, and then he hit the skull-crushing finale on the chair, and I was like, oh, that's it, it's over, that's nice, I like that. And I'm not quite sure what happened here. Again, this is a part where the commentary sort of let everybody involved down, because they just didn't really say what happened. So he gets the skull-crushing finale on the chair, he goes down for the cover, and you hear a 1-2, and then I assumed it was a kick out, and I was like, really? He's going to kick out of that? But it seemed that the ref didn't call it. I'm not sure whether it was because, I think Corey said something about not wanting to call it because he works for Shane, but there was also something about feet on the ropes. So either Shane got his foot on the rope and they did the rope break even though there shouldn't be one, or maybe he stopped counting because he noticed Miz had his foot on the ropes. It was one of those things. I didn't really like that. I didn't see the point, even if they'd have explained it to me properly. If it's a case that Miz had his feet on the ropes for a little bit of leverage, then that is just how it should have ended, because that was fine. I don't even think you really needed to go any further than the skull-crushing finale on the chair. That would have been a nice punctuation mark for this feud. It would have made Miz look pretty vicious, like he got the vengeance for his father. But no, they decided to go down this weird, screwy, the ref is an idiot storyline. It just makes the ref look like an idiot. He's like, oh, a rope break. No, there is no rope break in a steel cage match. So that was pretty frustrating, and I don't really know why they did that. They got up onto the top of the cage as Shane was trying to escape. Miz was trying to stop him. They got into a bit of a fist fight up there, and the commentators were like, oh yeah, that's right, have a fist fight on top of the cage. Shane falls back in, and Miz hits a frog splash, but not from the top of the cage, from the top rope, which I was like, no, I was so close. I really thought they were going to give him it then. As soon as Shane fell off, I was like, yes, come on, this is it. Miz is going to jump off the cage, and then he just jumped off the top rope, and I was like, okay, still cool that it was a splash from the Miz, because that's not necessarily something that you see all the time, but it was still like, oh, I was so close. But they got back up there a little bit later on anyway, Miz was teasing the superplex as Shane was trying to climb out, and I was really excited for this. Again, I was like, oh yeah, this would be a great way to end the feud, have him superplex him back in, and then maybe just have Miz like go out the door or pin him or something like that. But no, it ended with Shane slipping out of the grasp of The Miz, and he hits the floor, and Shane is the winner of the match. And now this feud is probably going to continue, even though there is no reason to. Shane didn't cheat. It wasn't a cheat win. He didn't manage to get out because the ref did that. It was just a completely separate part of the match where they were fighting for the superplex, and then Shane got out, and it's just a little bit frustrating because it's like, okay, how are you going to extend this feud? What's the point of extending this feud? What is the next match going to be? They're going backwards. They did a Falls Count Anywhere first, then they did a steel cage match. The next match is just going to be a straight up exhibition, like full DQ, rope break, count out, just exhibition match. They're going backwards with it. Like I said, I actually thought that the match itself was fairly decent. I didn't think there was anything too special with it, and it was a little bit disappointing because I really did want to see The Miz just come out and be like, oh, you attacked my family. And there was one nice point when he was laying into Shane with the chair where it was like, you had enough, Shane? You had enough? Nah, you haven't had enough. And he'd do some more and then talk a bit more trash. And I think that Miz is actually playing the role really well, but they're just not, the actual story that's being told isn't allowing for him to become as much of a badass face as I think that he could. And it's just a shame that they had to let Shane walk out with the dodgy, or not dodgy because it wasn't dodgy, but they had to let Shane walk out with the cheap victory again, and it's just, hopefully next time it's like some sort of 2 out of 3 fall situation or something like that. I gave this match a 3 out of 6. I don't think that it went above that, and it's a shame because I really feel like it could have. To my surprise, the Cruiserweight Championship match was next. I'd assumed that this was going to be on the kickoff show, but I was wrong. Now, I actually quite like this match. Thought it was a pretty solid, decent title match. The crowd at one point was chanting boring, and I just thought, what do you people want? Because there's been all these other things that's been going on, all these other matches, and you haven't chanted that so far. And as much as I don't think that it needed to be chanted in any of those other matches, I was just like, I don't know, when there was a Cruiserweight match on, I just assumed that, people were going to be sort of happy, like, oh yeah, some decent wrestling, but they weren't. They were chanting boring, and they weren't really into it until towards the end of the match. The story of this match was Daivari, after making his stylish entrance in a Mercedes that Nigel McGuinness was going absolutely crazy over, he came out. It was back and forth, fast action early on. They were really, in fact, the whole match was really, really back and forth. They seemed fairly well matched, and it really seemed like Daivari could come out of this with the win. In the early moments, he hit Tony Nese in the eye with the ropes, and it was really, really affecting Tony throughout the whole rest of the match. We got a spinning heel kick from Nese at one point, and then it wasn't long after that that the crowd started chanting boring. At one point, Nese hit a forearm to the jaw. Daivari countered with a kick. Then he looked for something else, but Nese countered, looked for the pump handle driver, but Daivari managed to escape. Tony Nese hit the 450 for a near fall, and towards the end of the match, Daivari hit a super kick, and then a Persian Lion Splash, which I'm not actually particularly sure what that is, so if anyone wants to let me know, that'd be nice. And then a Lariat, and it seemed like it was going to be over, but it wasn't, and Tony Nese hit the Running Nese for the win. Now, I really thought that this was a really decent match, and I'm sure that I didn't say all of the spots that were in this match, but to me, this was probably one of the stronger matches for commentary. I really thought that there was a couple of places where the commentary really did well, especially early on in the match as Daivari was looking for some sort of submission hold. I'm not particularly sure what it was, but Nigel was playing up that Tony Nese was driving with his quadriceps to try and block the submission. He was also playing up how smart Daivari was, because once he'd attacked the eye, he just wouldn't let up, and he was staying on that side of the body that was affected by the sight loss. And like I said, there was times throughout this night where people were hitting super kicks and they were being called a kick to the face. So when you've got Nigel just buried in the middle doing commentary for a cruiserweight match, and he's talking about the psychology of staying on that side of the opponent because you've attacked his eye and now he can't see you, and apparently if you can't see things then you can't hit them. It's just, like I said, it was one of the better matches for commentary for me, so I actually really enjoyed it, and it was nice to have a fast-paced, technical style wrestling match. I really enjoyed it, to be honest. I don't think I enjoyed it enough to be like, oh, I'm going to go watch 205 Live this week now, but it was still a definitely really, really strong showcase for both men, and I really thought that Daivari looked like he could have come out with this with the win, but Nese just was the better man that day. I gave it a 4 out of 6, and I think that was about right. I really enjoyed this one. So now let's get to what was my favourite run of the show, and it was what was the Becky Lynch section. So let's get to what happened with the Raw and SmackDown Women's Championships. The first match was Lacey versus Becky. Now, I was so close with my fantasy versus reality. I said that what I would have done in my little fantasy land was have Becky and Charlotte have a really competitive match. Becky would just squeak out the win. Then you'd have immediately afterwards a match with Lacey Evans where Lacey would pull out some shock victory and walk out with the Raw Women's Championship. Now, what we actually got was a fairly competitive match between Lacey Evans and Becky Lynch, another mildly competitive match between Charlotte and Becky, and then the Bayley cash-in, which I've already mentioned. Now, let's get to the in-ring stuff. This was actually a fairly decent match between Lacey Evans and Becky Lynch. I thought it was a really good showcase for Lacey Evans, a good first proper outing. She was handing out money to people on the way down to the ring, and I thought that was a nice touch. Sort of reminds me of something that your grandma would do, handing you some pocket money. Don't spend it all on sweets. And I guess that sort of fits with what they're trying to go for with her, because she's supposed to be this traditionalist lady of the ring. I think that was a nice spot. But she's also very nasty, and that was displayed in the match as well. At one point she was digging her nails into Becky's face, obscuring the ref's view, of course, so he couldn't see that she was doing that. She used a gator roll at some point to get Becky into the corner, and she was working the left arm, which I really, really appreciated. I really like it when people work the limbs of body parts that they use to lock in submissions. If you know someone's going to try and finish the match with a submission, then you try and take out the part of the body that they're going to use to lock in that submission. And I really like that she was doing that on Becky. We got the greatest hits from Becky, who was extremely over in this match. At the beginning there was a Becky 2 belts chant that lasted so long and was so loud that Renee had to stop talking altogether. The crowd also sang her theme song at some point. We got a flying forearm from her, a Bex Plex, but it was fairly back and forth action. I don't feel like we saw anything from Becky that was particularly groundbreaking or different from what she's done before, but I still thought it made her look pretty good, because she was really having to struggle and find that champion's fire to to keep on going, and we also knew what was coming for her later on in the night, so that helped add the drama to it. It's just every minute more that this Lacey match went, it was more and more dramatic, because she's got to face Charlotte next, and it's like, oh, what's going to happen? At one point, Lacey hit some sort of stunner and a big kick for a near fall that I thought was pretty impressive, and towards the end of the match, there was a disarmer spot near the ropes, but Lacey got the rope break. She rolled out of the ring from that flying forearm that I mentioned just. Just really showing some in-ring smarts, in my opinion, and I thought that was a pretty decent way to go with it, is that she really seems like the wily... I'm trying to think of a word for it. She really seems like the wily opportunist, and she knows how the ring works, and I just thought that she actually come across as quite a decent opponent for Becky Lynch in this match. Towards the end, Becky was trying to lock in the disarmer, but no, I've already mentioned that bit. No, I was going to say that she locked in the disarmer and there was the rope break, but I've already mentioned that. So she actually locks in the disarmer at the end for the win. This is after being chop blocked by Lacey, because she decided, I'm not going to work the arm no more, I'm going to work the leg, because you've had an injured leg before, and Charlotte Flair also does a figure four, so it makes sense if we work the leg. But in all seriousness, I do think it's good psychology. You go in to try and stop her from getting the disarmer in, and that doesn't work. Go to the previously injured leg with that chop block and a roll-up that the ref didn't count because he thought Becky's shoulders were down, and I didn't really get that. But nonetheless, Becky picked up the win with the disarmer in the end. I thought this was a 4 out of 6 match. I really thought that it was decent, and made even better by what came afterwards. I think it would have just been a standard normal 4 out of 6 match had it just been that on its own, but considering the story that was then told from there, I just thought that all of this worked really, really well. So Charlotte comes out, and she, well, they make the match. They make the SmackDown title match, and it's happening right now, immediately after the Raw title match, and all the commentators are playing it up as, oh, I can't believe it, she doesn't have to do this, why is she accepting it? And that is pretty in line with Becky Lynch's character, which I quite like. She doesn't necessarily make the best decisions, she's got a lot of pride, and she doesn't like being shown up. Charlotte coming out at the end of that match where it was fairly well matched and she actually had to fight, she wasn't going to back down from another one, and I like that. Charlotte came out as a proper heel in this match, really trying to take advantage of the fact that Becky has already been in a match. They were going backwards and forwards with chops and kicks and fighting all around the ringside area. Charlotte was throwing Becky into the barricade, etc, etc. She was using the 5 count a lot in terms of getting her on the ropes and those sort of things. I really like that sort of tactic. Just utilising the ref's 5 count is always great. She really seemed like she was just trying to sneak in there quickly. It was almost like a cash-in type thing within itself. It felt like one of those matches where someone's had a match and they're all tired and the other person comes in and they're like, right, quickly, put them down. And like I say, that in itself sort of felt like a cash-in. At one point, Becky grabbed the ropes and blocked a natural selection, and Charlotte hurt her back. And then, as Charlotte was on the outside regaining her composure, the ref was administering the count, and as he was paying attention to Charlotte, Becky and Charlotte ended up picking up the win and became the SmackDown Live Women's Champion. And now, this would have probably been annoying had I not been like, okay, well, Bayley's obviously going to come out right now. Lacey and Charlotte both start beating up Becky. You can hear Charlotte directing traffic. Hold her for me, Lacey, hold her there, and etc, etc. So there's this loose alliance that seems to be forming between Charlotte and Becky, and I think that's a Charlotte and Becky, I keep messing up with that sort of thing. Charlotte and Lacey seem to have a shaky alliance, and I like that. But Bayley comes out to even the score. She's fighting Lacey and Charlotte along with Becky, and eventually she ends up standing tall after she sent Charlotte into the turnbuckle face first. She cashes in, hits the elbow drop, and picks up the SmackDown Live Women's Championship. And I thought this little run was really, really good, because people are complaining anyway about the dual branded thing, about how blurred the lines between the brands are becoming anyway. And I think it's a good idea in this one segment you initiate a feud between Charlotte and Bayley. You align Bayley and Becky as possibly being able to tag at some point. You officially get Bayley away from Sasha. You keep the feud going between Lacey and Becky. Becky's still Raw champion, and Lacey and Becky can fight over that. Charlotte and Bayley can fight over the SmackDown Women's Championship, and you instantly end that problem in a way that makes sense. It makes Lacey Evans look good because she made Becky fight so much. It makes Charlotte look even more of a heel because she came out and basically stole the win from Becky, and it makes Bayley look good because she managed to successfully cash in the Money in the Bank briefcase and is now the women's champion. And I thought this was a proper 5 out of 6 run of the show. Those three things, the Lacey Becky match, the Charlotte Becky match, and the tiny match that was Bayley Charlotte, I thought was a 5 run, and I gave Becky versus Charlotte a 3 because I never really felt like it got going. But I didn't really think of any of these matches as separate ones, even though I gave Lacey and Becky 4, Charlotte and Becky 3. And then just didn't really grade the Bayley thing because it was the story of the whole segment. So, putting it all together, the Becky Lynch section was a solid 5 out of 6 run of the show, and it was probably my favourite part. Elias versus Roman Reigns next. For what it's worth, this was another humongous waste of time. They show Roman Reigns walk into the ring. Elias comes up behind him, destroys him with the acoustic guitar. He comes out, gives one of Elias's stock performances that I'm really, really tired of seeing now. His character needs to change up. They need to change him. And I'm not saying that he needs to drop the musician thing altogether, but these performances where he comes out, he sings a stupid song, running down the crowd, running down his opponent, it just doesn't work for me anymore. It did originally. I thought it was really, really entertaining. Now I just think that it's incredibly boring. He comes out with an electric guitar instead because his acoustic one is broken, and he gives just his stock standard Alliance performance. Roman Reigns comes out, Superman punches him, gets him in the ring, spears him, and picks up the win. And that's all I have to say about this, because it was a massive waste of time. You had the potential to make this a decent 5-minute match where Elias actually gets in a couple of moves and Roman picks up the win, or have it even be a little bit competitive. But no, you just chose to do the same thing as they always do with Elias and just do this standard performance, and I really, really wasn't into it. I didn't like this section at all. Gave it a 1 out of 6. What a waste of my time. And your time too. The Universal Championship match up next, with Seth Rollins defending against AJ Styles. Go watch this match. That's basically all I have to say, really. I'm going to say more because that's sort of what this is all about. But it's all I really need to say. It's Seth Rollins and AJ Styles. They're both fantastic, and this match was easily the number 1 match of the night. I thought this was the best match. It was just back and forth action. Both men were hitting moves that were just cool and trying to put each other down, and it really, really worked for me. It helped that I was expecting an AJ Styles heel turn all the way through, so I was getting pretty excited, and the more the deeper the match went, the more I was expecting the AJ heel turn, and I was like, oh, you can't put him down, you're going to get frustrated. But he didn't, and he didn't turn heel. And I still thought that this was the best match of the night. I'm trying to get the notes straight in my head, because there's just, with matches like this, it almost goes the other way to a match where the commentators aren't saying much. They're saying so much that there's no way that I could write down all the cool stuff in here. It was really technical to start with. The first thing that happened was they locked up with that collar and elbow tie-up. Styles backed Rollins up into the corner just to show his strength. And then there was a couple of minutes of just technical wrestling where the commentators were talking, unfortunately, but it made me really wish that I could see, because the commentators were just talking amongst themselves, and they're like, oh yeah, I think this technical stuff will last a little bit longer, and it's like they're waiting for it to stop, and it just slightly annoys me, because I wish that they would call it. There was just some really, really cool moves from both the men here. There's a leapfrog from Styles at some point, but Rollins countered with a clothesline. Rollins got 2 suicide dives, driving AJ Styles into the commentary table both times. At some point, Styles went for the Styles Clash, but Rollins managed to counter his way out of it. At some point, Styles locked in the Calf Crusher, and it seemed like Rollins might tap, but he eventually managed to get his way out with a big kick to the jaw. There was lots and lots of that sort of thing, and it's really hard to talk about this sort of match and analyze it the same way that I usually do with a normal match, because it's too fast. And honestly, all I really have to say is that you should go and watch this match, because it's a strong 5 out of 6, and if I enjoyed it, so will you. I mean, we got a counter in this match where Rollins went for the stomp, and Styles countered it into a Styles Clash. Now that is some cool, inventive stuff. It's like that thing with the Randy Orton Seth Rollins one, where he RKO'd him from the stomp. I love that the stomp is this move that is really, really strongly booked in kayfabe. It's got a lot of history behind it. It looks brutal, it's boot strong, and you can counter in so many different ways. I mean, most people could counter that finisher into their finisher, and it works really well. It adds to the match, and I really, really thought that it made them look good. At some point, AJ hit a rack bomb. There was a plethora of big moments in this match, and I really don't want to try and think of any more of them, because there was just so many, and all I really think is that you should just go and watch this. It was the best match of the night. It was a great showcase for Seth Rollins. It was a great showcase for AJ Styles. I like that Styles is willing to put over people like Rollins in this sort of way, because it really does cement Rollins as a strong champion, and it shows you what he can truly do in the ring. And it was just a really, really fun match that I cannot stress that you should watch enough. Strong 5 out of 6 match, best match of the night. And you know what? If you hadn't wasted time with Roman and Elias and Joe versus Mysterio and all these goddamn stupid video packages about Super Showdown and stuff like that, you could have given them another couple of minutes, and this could have been a 6 out of 6 match easily. It easily could have been, but it wasn't. It was just still the best match of the night, 5 out of 6. And afterwards, AJ held Rollins' arm up, and I like that he was saying, I could hear him going, oh, you know how hard this is for me? Don't you see how hard it is? And I really like that. I like that he was willing to show him the respect, but it wasn't easy for him. Go watch this match, 5 out of 6. The WWE Championship match next between Kevin Owens and Kofi Kingston, the champion. This match was it suffered, I think, from being right after the Rollins and AJ match. Now, they tried to split it up with a Lars Sullivan thing. We got the Lucha House Party coming out. It's supposed to be six-man tag action, and Lars Sullivan came out and wiped them all out. It still wasn't that much of a gap between the Universal and WWE Championship matches, and I do think that suffered a little bit, that this match suffered a little bit because of that. By this point, I was sort of frustrated with a couple of the more boring things that have happened in the show, like the Elias and Roman thing, like the Joe Mysterio thing. I was sort of frustrated with the commentary from the AJ Rollins match, because there was quite a few times where they just botched the calls, like calling a super kick a kick to the face, etc, etc. So by this point I was just sort of frustrated, and I was really ready for the pay-per-view to be over, and I think that it probably suffered for that. But I still think there was some pretty good moments in this match, and I still think that it was a good match. Kofi Kingston cut a promo beforehand talking about knowing that he couldn't have done it without the New Day, and Xavier told him that he sells himself short and that X is going to respect Kofi's wishes and stay away from ringside. Kofi, as the match started, took it to Owens strong. He really came out of the gate hard, trying to gain that advantage early. He was just beating him from pillar to post, really, around ringside area, etc, etc, and the commentary were really intense and aggressive, an aggressiveness that he doesn't usually show. At one point he hit a headbutt, and they were like, oh, how often do you see a headbutt from Kofi Kingston? And it was really, really back and forth action. At one point, Owens launched Kofi out of the ring. Kofi hit the corner on the way out, and then the cameraman and Kevin Owens hit a frog splash from the apron to the outside. That was a really cool spot, as well as him hitting the stunner for a near fall at one point. Kofi went for the boom drop, and Owens countered that into a Boston Crab, and it was just a really solid match, to be honest. It was never going to be as good as AJ and Rollins, in my opinion, just because those two are two of my favourites in the whole company, and the way that those two wrestle, the style of match was just always, in my opinion, going to be better than this one. But I thought that Kofi put in a really strong performance. I think that Owens looked pretty good here, and in the end, as Kofi hit the Trouble in Paradise and picked up the win, I was really happy that they actually did let him keep that title, let him beat Owens, because that's a big win for him. He's now defended that championship against Daniel Bryan, AJ Styles, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. That's a good list of people to defend against, and now Kofi's really starting to look like a legit champion. Like I said, this wasn't the best match of the night, and it did suffer from going on so soon after the AJ Rollins match, but I did think that it was a very, very strong 4 out of 6 match. The commentary didn't necessarily let me down in any points. There wasn't anything particularly special about the commentary either, and maybe it just suffered from me being just a little bit tired and the pay-per-view going longer, and I don't know, I just never really connected with it in the way that I really thought that I was going to, because this is one of the matches I was looking forward to most. But nonetheless, there was some good spots, and I would definitely still recommend you giving it a watch. It was a 4 out of 6 match, and I can't wait to see where they go with Kofi from here. So let's talk about the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. Now, this match was actually a very entertaining for the most part, except for the ending, which has me mildly infuriated. Each man got a time to shine throughout this match, and I really enjoyed that. Randy took it early. He was clearing the ring, and in the end he was alone and he started to climb the ladder. Later on in the match, Baron Corbin got a nice time to shine with a ladder being set up between the ring and the announce table. He chokeslammed Ali through the announce table. He chokeslammed Finn Balor on the ladder that was between the ring and the table. He gave a deep six to Ricochet. He even turned his back on Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre hit a Claymore kick at some point that they never really said who it was to. Mustafa Ali and Ricochet were trying to outshine each other, trying to climb the ladder quicker, trying to jump higher, take out the most people. And I really liked that. It was a good showcase for those two. And at one point, Mustafa Ali hit an inverted Frankensteiner on Ricochet. That was really, really cool. I thought, all in all, there was some really, really good moments in this match, like Andrade pulling off a sunset flip powerbomb through a ladder on Finn Balor that the commentators sold as absolutely murdering Finn Balor. I just thought that this was a really decent showcase for most of the people in the match. There was a couple of times where I just didn't know what was going on. Michael Cole was selling this like he just couldn't believe it. Oh, what is wrong with these guys? Like, what's he gonna take to keep everyone down? Sorry about that. I just dropped my keyboard, and I just think that this was probably could have been better than the women's one had it not ended how it did. Because anyone in this match would have looked good with the Money in the Bank briefcase. Anybody. And originally Sami Zayn was supposed to be in the match. We got a couple of skits throughout the night where he went into Triple H's office. He was like, Strowman's obviously going to try and attack me. I've pissed him off and he's coming for me and I need protection. H told him if he wanted protection then he should go tape up his fists. A little bit later on in the show we got some sort of thing where people ran and got Triple H. They were like, oh, we found Sami, he's unresponsive. And they literally for the whole night did not say what happened to Sami Zayn. All that I heard was, cut him down. You need to cut him down from there. I'm like, has someone hung Sami Zayn? Is he dead? What's going on? Somebody tell me, please. So I was expecting someone to replace him. Maybe Bray Wyatt, because, especially with them being tied up somewhere, I thought that could be a Bray Wyatt thing. Maybe replacing Sami Zayn in the match or something like that. But no one replaced him, and we got Brock Lesnar. Any of those men, any of them would have looked good with the Money in the Bank briefcase. And did you give it to them? No. Frigging Brock Lesnar. You know what? I'm not even going to go into it fully, because I think everyone knows why I find Lesnar annoying. Because the same reason everyone else does, and I'm sure there are other podcasts out there that'll talk about it more, but I'm just not going into it because I hate it. It really, really brought down the Money in the Bank match for me. By the end of the match, it got to the point where I thought, is Mustafa Ali going to win this? This is really good. I'm really getting into this. And then Brock Lesnar's music hit, and I just thought, I can't believe you've done this to me again. I can't believe that I've sat through another pay-per-view that then ends with Brock Lesnar coming out, inserting himself into a match that he shouldn't even be in towards the end of the match, and winning. And I just can't be doing with it. Now he's going to be going back after Rollins, and we've got to put up with Lesnar versus Rollins again. Just go and do MMA or retire or something. Just get out of my frigging wrestling. I can't stand this whole fixation that they have on him, and it was a really, really sour note to leave the pay-per-view on. And I could only really give the Money in the Bank match itself a 4 out of 6, which is just a shame, because it could have been a 5 out of 6, and I think it probably would have been had someone in the actual match won. But just it being Lesnar again just has me infuriated. And if I actually watched Raw on a properly regular basis, I definitely wouldn't be watching it this week or until Lesnar cashed in and goes away, because I can't be dealing with it again. Like I said, some really cool spots in this match. A really good showcase for most of the people in the match, and then they just pissed it all away by bringing Lesnar out again. The Money in the Bank holder is Brock Lesnar, and it was a 4 out of 6 match. So those were my thoughts on this year's Money in the Bank pay-per-view. It was a really, really mixed bag for me, because I really enjoyed some of it, and I really, really hated some of it. So it was just a really mixed experience for me. I thought, for me, this was the women's night. The women's Money in the Bank match was well done. It was a story that was solidly told. There was good spots, and it really made the women look good. Bayley picking up that Money in the Bank briefcase was really exciting. The fact that I really thought that she was going to end up cashing it in later really helped build the feeling of excitement about it afterwards. All of the Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair, Lacey Evans, Bayley stuff was really, really good. I just think that this pay-per-view was the night for the women. They stole the show, other than AJ versus Rollins, because that was a really, really fantastic match. There are just so many things on the show, though, that I could have done without. I could have done without Mysterio and Joe. I could have done without Elias and Roman. I could have done without Brock Lesnar coming back and picking up the Money in the Bank briefcase. I could have done without these Super Showdown video packages where you try to say that they're either as good or better than WrestleMania, because it just feels wrong. And also them saying that Mick Foley is going to be coming out on Raw to announce their latest title. Like, you've got a new title already. You haven't even built the women's tag team championships yet. So what is that going to be? And it's just a really mixed bag, and it's a shame, because I was really, really looking forward to this pay-per-view, and I was looking forward to coming and recording it and being like, you know what, this was the best Money in the Bank in years, and I loved this match, and this match, and this match, and this match, and this match. And it just didn't end up like that, and I've had to complain way more than I actually like doing, because I don't record a podcast so that I can complain about it all the time, because that's not fun. And I think that I try to be as positive and as objective about it all as possible, but just occasionally things happen that just infuriate me, and I'm sorry if it was a bummer to listen to at times, but that's just the way that it is. You've heard my thoughts, now I want to hear your thoughts. Leave me a comment down below, let me know what you thought of this pay-per-view, where you thought it was good, where you thought it was bad, how you would have done things differently. If you've liked what you've heard here, remember to hit that like button, make me feel good. Make sure to go and check out Squared Circle Addicts. I was supposed to be doing pay-per-view predictions with her this weekend, but technical difficulties got in the way and we just couldn't work it out. But she's going to be doing a Money in the Bank review, I'm sure. And she did predictions also, so get yourself over there, check her out. She's my wrestling buddy, and I can't wait to see what she thought of this. If you want to stay up to date with Wrestling in the Dark, hit that subscribe button and the notify bell. You'll never miss an episode. Let's be friends. Right guys, I'm off, and you should have a good one.